This is a Ramping Up Your English book review. Reading a book about an instructional theme can make English more comprehensible. Seeing a movie based on that book can do even more to develop tools for English proficiency. If you want to have fun doing this, and I suggest making English learning as fun as possible, read Polar Express, written and illustrated by Chris Van Allsburg. This Caldecott Award winner takes readers on a wild fantasy train ride to the North Pole using much of the lore of American railroads. The story begins in Grand Rapids, Michigan in the 1950s. The plot begins when a boy awakes on Christmas Eve to see a train called the Polar Express. The conductor invites him aboard and the adventure begins. I suggest reading the book first. It has beautiful illustrations that will provide many context clues for the readers. Then rent the movie to see how the story is treated and, of course, to see the awesome special effects. A fun way of supporting your English acquisition is to read Polar Express. At the least, it'll be a fun experience, and you'll think of it every time you drink hot chocolate. For Ramping Up Your English, I'm John Letz. Welcome back to Ramping Up Your English. My guest, Will, is sharing a story called Kate Shelly and the Midnight Express. We're all eager to hear what happened next. In English, we say we're on the edge of our seats. Let's listen to Will read more of the story.
Let's get to it. In the next moment, the river pulled the tree down under the water. Kate felt the tree scrape beneath the walkway. Then it was gone. Kate was shaking with fear. She could not stop to rest. She knew it was almost midnight. She had to reach the station before midnight, before the express. At last, Kate's hand touched land. She had crossed the river. The Moingona station was less than half a mile ahead. She got to her hands and feet and began to run. Her heart pounded, her throat ached, but through the rain she could see the lights of the station. Kate threw open the station door. The men inside turned and stared. Kate's clothes were torn and muddy. Water dripped from her old straw hat. She tried to speak, but no words came. At last, she gasped. "The engine went down in Honey Creek. Stop! Express!" Then she sagged to the floor. "The girl must be crazy," someone said. But the station agent knew Kate. "She means the bridge is out," he shouted. "We must stop the express." He rushed to the telegraph and tapped out a message to Ogden, the station before Moingona. "Stop express! Bridge out! Stop express!" Another man grabbed a lantern and ran out onto the platform. He would flag down the express if the telegraph message was too late. The express, with 200 people aboard, was still speeding toward the broken bridge.
Again, we pause on what's happening in the story. Very hard to do because I know we're just right there. Is that Midnight Express going to be stopped or not? I want to point out at this time, Will, you are using very good expression while you're reading.
Yeah.
And it's a good time to point out, again, get beyond the words of a story. Sometimes all you hear when someone's reading is they're pronouncing words. Well, that's part of reading, but that's not the whole thing. And you're doing a great job of getting that emotion in there with the story.
Thank you.
That's what's making it interesting.
Thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome. I know you've worked hard on this. So I know it's hard to stop sometime, but let's think about Kate Shelly. What kind of person is she? What has she shown herself to be? Think of some words that might describe Kate Shelly. And if you have some, raise your hand and we'll hear what kind of words you came up with. Okay, what did you come up with?
Hopeful, Helpful and kind and caring.
Helpful, kind, and caring. Does anyone want to add to that? That's a very good start. Yes.
Brave.
Yes, brave. Can you remember that scene where she's on that bridge? That is really brave. Anyone else have something to add? These are called the character traits, and they really help us enjoy the story. So speaking of enjoy the story, let's listen to Will take the next part of it.
Okay, let's get to it. But Kate's warning had come on time. The railroad men stopped the train at Ogden. It was the last telegraph message sent or received that night. The storm knocked out telegraph service for 40 miles along the line. Someone helped Kate to a chair. Someone gave Kate a glass of water. 2 men are still alive in Honey Creek, Kate said. I saw them holding on to trees in the water. Let's try to save them before they're washed away, a man said. Would you help us, Kate? Another man asked. Would you show us where they are? Kate rode the engine with the rescue party. They crossed the Des Moines River, the same bridge Kate had crawled over. The engine stopped at the broken bridge on Honey Creek. Everyone shouted, and the man in the water answered. They were still hanging on, but there was no way to reach them from that side of the flooded creek. Kate led the rescue party into the hills behind her house. She led them through the woods to a bridge farther upstream. There was no there. They found the men and rescued the 2 exhausted men.
Okay, so we found out a whole lot in this. What a great story.
Yeah.
And based on a true event. Now let's hear some applause for Nick and the way he read the story. You guys know what applause is? Let's clap for Will. And again, thank you. Notice that Will didn't just pronounce words. He reads with feeling, and that helped us be captivated by this story. I see some nodding going on. Yeah. Thank you, Will, for doing such a great job. I also want to tell you that I could see that the audience, your audience here has enjoyed themselves. So let's express some appreciation for the audience. You guys did great. Let's hear some more applause for our audience. So thanks to all of you for being on Ramping Up Your English. I have a few more words to say, and those words are, earlier in today's program, I urged viewers to come up with some words to describe Kate Shelly as a person. These are called character traits. And if you don't yet have the words in English, think of the character traits in your native language. I'm confident that in either language, you saw her as being brave or courageous, which means the same thing in English. Concerned for others, determined, and maybe even conscientious, a very advanced word in English. This story was all about the actions of Kate Shelly, so she's called the protagonist. The words brave, courageous, those mean acting in the face of fear. The word determined means that she didn't let anything stop her. And the word conscientious, that means doing the right thing, is important to this character. These character traits are developed by means of conflict in the story. The main conflict was between being safe and saving the lives of those on the train. The protagonist had to face the forces of nature and her own fear in order to do the right thing. This story is rich with conflict, which brought out those character traits. I want to credit the writer, Margaret Wetterer, and the illustrator, Karen Ritz, for bringing this true story to life for us. And I highly recommend that you get a copy of this book or check it out from the library. Even if you understood and enjoyed what you heard today, reading it again will enrich your experience and even more, like it is with great literature. So when I taught English learners in Oregon schools, I often had them slow down and think about what they were reading. That sometimes meant reading the story several times. And I told my English language learners, you know, there's no law against reading something more than once. Will, how many times did you read this story before you could do this wonderful job you did today?
Oh, wow. It probably been like 15 times, like a couple of times a day at least.
Yes, you had to do the performance as well, and you did a fantastic job. Well, thanks for doing the job that you did. I'm going to ask my crew to let me know that we have, I believe, 2 minutes left. Is that right? Okay, so 2 minutes. So, again, thanks to everyone here for doing such a great job. I want to thank my volunteer crew for the work that they did. I want to thank my announcer, Bob Ayers, and I want to thank you, our viewers. See you next time on Ramping Up Your English. I'm John Letz. This is the subway in Frankfurt, Germany. Lots of forested acreage.
You've been watching Ramping Up Your English, a support program for intermediate level English language learners. Learn more. Visit our website at letscreate.org. You can also watch or download today's program at archive.org/details/roguetv. Join us next time on RBTV Voices for Ramping Up Your English.